Do you ever feel like you're not good enough? Like you want to speak, but your voice disappears? I know that feeling. I've lived that feeling. But I want to tell you something very important. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Confidence is not something you are born with. It's something you build step by step, word by word, even when your hands are shaking. And today, I want to tell you my story. The story of how I built my confidence. When I was young, I was the quiet kid. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I was too scared to say it. Every time I opened my mouth, I thought someone would laugh. I thought someone would correct me. I thought someone would say, "You're wrong." So I stayed quiet. In class, when the teacher asked a question, my heart would beat fast. My mind would scream, "Say something!" But my mouth stayed closed. At home, I had so many dreams inside me. I wanted to speak English well. I wanted to be strong, brave, and heard. But all I had was fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of making mistakes. One day, something small changed everything. It was a Monday morning, and I was walking to school. The sky was gray, and my heart felt heavy. I was thinking about how I always felt invisible. Suddenly, I saw a little girl in front of her school gate. She dropped her lunchbox, and the food spilled everywhere. She looked around, waiting for someone to help. Everyone kept walking. No one stopped, but I did. I walked over, bent down, and picked up her box. I smiled and said, "It's okay. It happens." She looked up at me with big eyes and smiled back. She said, "Thank you. You are kind." That moment was small, but it touched me deeply. I had spoken. I had helped. And someone had smiled because of me. That's when I realized confidence is not about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when you're afraid. So I made a small decision that day. I decided to speak. Not always, not loudly, but sometimes. And that was enough to start. I began to answer one question in class every week. Just one. My heart still beat fast, and my voice still shook. But I spoke. And each time I did, something inside me grew stronger. One day, the teacher said, "Good answer." That one sentence felt like a medal. I remember going home that day with a smile on my face. I looked in the mirror and said to myself, "You did it. You spoke." And I felt proud. At home, I started talking to myself in English. In the mirror, in my room, in the shower. I didn't wait for someone to teach me. I became my own teacher. I would say simple things like, "How are you? What do I want to eat today? I am trying my best." At first it felt silly, but slowly it became a habit. And that habit made me feel strong. I began writing short notes in English, just 5 lines a day. I wrote about my day, my feelings, and my dreams. Then I read those lines aloud, every day. Again and again. My voice started to sound better. My words became smoother. And my fear? It started to fade. But let me be honest, it wasn't always easy. One day, in the school hallway, a group of students laughed when I mispronounced a word. It hurt. I felt small again. I went home and cried. I thought about giving up. I thought, why am I trying so hard? Maybe I'll never be good enough. But then I remembered the little girl. I remembered how I made her smile, and I thought, if I stop now, I'll never grow. I'll never become the person I want to be. So I wiped my tears. I stood up, and I made a new promise to myself. No matter what, I will keep going. I started watching English videos on YouTube, not just to learn but to feel. I watched how people spoke, how they moved their hands, how they smiled, and how they expressed emotion. I copied them in the mirror. I didn't just want to know English, I wanted to feel confident when I spoke it. I began to fall in love with the sound of words. I whispered them at night. I sang English songs alone in my room. I practiced greetings. I practiced telling stories. I practiced confidence again and again. Then, something surprising happened. One day, a classmate came to me and said, "Your English is getting really good." I smiled and said, "Thank you." But inside, my heart danced, because that was the first time someone noticed. That was the first time I felt like all my quiet practice, all my small steps, all my lonely moments in front of the mirror, they mattered. I joined a small English club in my neighborhood. At first, I was too shy to speak, but I listened. I learned, and slowly, I started sharing my thoughts. I talked about my favorite movies. I asked questions. I gave answers. People listened. They didn't laugh. They nodded. They smiled. And I began to feel something I had never felt before: belonging. You see, confidence doesn't grow in one day. It's like planting a seed. You water it every day. You take care of it. And one day, a small green leaf comes out of the ground. Then another. Then one more. And slowly, you see the tree that was always meant to grow. My voice was that tree, and I had planted it with every word I spoke, every fear I faced, and every time I said, "I'll try again tomorrow." There were still bad days. Days when I couldn't speak. Days when fear came back. Days when I doubted myself. But now I knew something important. I had the power to stand up again. I had the power to grow, even when it was hard. Because I had already done it before. So I kept going. Every day, I found small ways to build my confidence. I changed the way I spoke to myself. Before, I used to say, "I can't do this. My English is bad. I'll never speak well." But now, I started saying, I'm learning. I'm getting better. I'm proud of my progress. These words may seem small, but they are very powerful. When you speak kindly to yourself, you begin to believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you begin to change your life. There was a time when I had to give a short talk in front of my class. It was just 5 minutes. But for me, it felt like 5 hours. I remember holding my paper in my hand. My fingers were shaking. My heart was loud in my chest. I was so scared I would forget my words. I looked at the students. Some were talking. Some were looking down at their books. I took a deep breath and began. I made a few mistakes. I forgot a sentence, but I kept going. I told myself, don't stop. You're doing it. And when I finished, the teacher clapped. A few students clapped too. I went back to my seat, and I was breathing hard. But I felt something strong inside me. I did it. I faced my fear. I stood in front of people. I spoke. I was no longer the silent kid. I was becoming the confident one. After that day, something changed in me. I wasn't just practicing English anymore. I was practicing bravery. Every time I spoke, even if I was nervous, I was building strength inside me. I learned that confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to keep going even when fear is present. And the more I chose to speak, the less power fear had over me. I also learned to celebrate small wins. One day, I ordered food in English for the first time. I said, "Can I have a sandwich with no onions, please?" The cashier understood me. I felt proud. Another day, I helped a tourist in my city find their way. I said, "You can go straight and then turn left." The tourist smiled and said, "Thank you so much." And I smiled too, because I had just used my English to help someone. That feeling is beautiful. That feeling gave me more strength. There were also days when I helped my little brother with his English homework. I taught him what I had learned. I said, "Don't be afraid. It's okay to make mistakes. Let's learn together." And when he smiled at me and said, "You're good at this," my heart felt warm. I was not just growing for myself. I was helping someone else grow too. That is what confidence does. It spreads. It lifts others up. It becomes light in dark places. I began reading books, even if they were hard. I didn't understand every word, but I didn't stop. I used a dictionary. I underlined words. I wrote down sentences I liked. I read aloud. I started to love English. It was not just a language to me anymore. It was my friend. It was my tool to reach the world. It was my voice. Soon, I started writing stories. Simple ones. About my day. About my dreams. About my fears. I posted one online. Just one. I was scared. What if people laughed? What if no one liked it? But something amazing happened. A stranger commented and said, "Your story helped me today. Thank you." I cried, not because I was sad, but because I realized my voice mattered. So I wrote more. I shared more. I spoke more. I made videos in English. I practiced again and again. And with each word, my confidence grew. Not because I was perfect, but because I kept showing up. I kept learning. I kept trying. Confidence is not a gift. It is a habit. It is a choice you make every day. It's saying yes when you want to say no. It's raising your hand when your mind says, stay quiet. It's standing tall when your knees feel weak. It's starting even when you're not ready, because if you wait to be ready, you'll wait forever. I still remember a moment that changed me completely. I was invited to speak at a small youth event in my town. The topic was finding your voice. At first, I said no. I was scared. I thought, who am I to speak in front of people? But then, I remembered all the steps I had taken. I remembered the little girl. I remembered the mirror talks. I remembered the first class speech. I remembered the comment on my story, and I said yes. That night, I stood in front of a small crowd, maybe 40 people. My hands were cold, but my heart was warm. I spoke slowly. I told them my story, how I was once afraid to speak, how I built my confidence little by little, and how they could do it too. When I finished, people clapped. Some even stood up. One woman came to me and said, "You gave me hope. I want to speak with confidence too." That night, I didn't just speak. I connected. I inspired. I believed in myself more than ever before. And I want to tell you something. If I can do it, so can you. You are not too shy. You are not too weak. You are not too late. You are enough. You don't have to be perfect to begin. You just have to begin. So I kept going. And every step I took made me stronger, even when I was afraid. Confidence is not built in big moments. It's built in small, everyday moments, like when you say, "Good morning," to someone instead of looking away. Or when you ask a question in class, even when your voice shakes. Or when you try a new word in English and get it wrong, but you laugh and try again. These moments feel small, but they are not small. They are everything. I started to enjoy talking to people. I used to avoid eye contact. I used to feel nervous around strangers. But now, I look into people's eyes. I smile. I speak. I ask, "How are you?" And "What do you think?" And "Can you help me?" I started to feel human again. I started to feel alive. I also learned something very important. Confidence and kindness go together. When you speak with kindness, people listen. When you speak with honesty, people connect. You don't need to sound perfect. You just need to be real. And being real means showing your heart, even when your grammar is not perfect. People don't remember every word you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So I spoke with heart. I made mistakes. I forgot words, but I kept going, and people listened. One day, something happened that changed everything again. I was invited to an interview for a part-time job. The job was to help young kids with their English homework. At first, I wanted to say no. I thought, what if they ask hard questions? What if I don't understand them? What if I fail? But then, I said something new to myself. You are ready enough. You've come so far. Don't stop now. So I went. I wore my best shirt. I took deep breaths. I smiled, and I walked into the room. The woman who interviewed me was kind. She asked simple questions. I answered with care. I used short sentences. I looked into her eyes. I showed her who I was. I didn't try to be someone else. I just tried to be honest. And at the end, she said, "You're a good fit. I'd like to offer you the position." My eyes filled with tears. Not because of the job, but because I had proved something to myself. I was not the quiet kid anymore. I was the confident one now. From that day on, I promised myself something. I would help others build their confidence too. I started sharing my story more often, in small groups, in schools, on social media. I said, it's okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to give up. I told people, you are stronger than you think. I began helping others find their voice, just like I had found mine. There's something powerful about helping others. It gives your pain a purpose. All those hard days I had, they became stories I could tell. All those tears I cried, they became lessons I could share. I wasn't ashamed of my past anymore. I was proud of it. Because every fear I faced became a part of my strength. Every failure became a part of my success. I remember one evening, I was walking home from a session where I helped young girls with spoken English. One of them, a girl named Mia, ran up to me and said, "Miss, today I spoke in front of the class. I remembered what you said. Don't stop. Just try." And I did it. I hugged her, and I knew in that moment I was living my purpose. You see, confidence is not only about speaking well, it's about being well. It's about trusting yourself. It's about standing tall in your truth. It's about saying, yes, I'm scared, but I'll try anyway. It's about showing up even when no one else believes in you. It's about being your own friend when no one else claps for you. And slowly, with time, you learn to clap for yourself. So if you're listening to me right now, and you feel like you can't speak, or you're too shy, or you don't believe in yourself, I want you to stop and take a deep breath. Say this with me. I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. You just need to speak with your heart. And when you do, the right people will listen. There were many nights when I stayed up, just thinking about how far I had come, from being silent and scared to standing on a stage, helping others speak, from being laughed at to being clapped for, from being invisible to becoming a light for others. And I realized this is what confidence really is. It's not about having no fear. It's about moving forward with fear. It's about saying, I'm scared, but I'm still going to try. And now, when I see someone sitting quietly in the corner, afraid to speak, I walk up to them. I smile and say, I understand. I was you. But don't give up. Your voice is waiting for you. Let's find it together.